you're selling something with so much like enthusiasm, but you believe what you're saying. You're not deceiving someone. Like that enthusiasm is real.
Yeah.
I like how you put it. Like you're feeling like if I was you, bro. I would do anything. Like I would say, if I was you, I would be on full gap. I'll be using full gap to do this. It's like that kind of ownership.
Yeah. So, Mr. Victor, how are you doing today?
Really, really good. It's my half day, so I'm doing less work today. Nice. I'm happy to be here.
That's very interesting. I think I need to implement the same idea of half days.
I've been trying to build my week into a system where, like, okay, this day is for this. Fridays, for example, is like when I kind of give some mentorship or advice. If anybody's trying to like, oh, I want to pick your brain and everything, like, I know that's Fridays. Okay. I'm trying to just have like a system.
So
it's
working so far?
Off and on, but for the most part.
Okay. I think I tried it one time.
It's difficult. We like chaos, you know. So it's difficult. Like chaos is intriguing.
And I think another reason why I struggled with it was because sometimes I get into the flow and I just damn everything else.
Damn all the entire structure.
Like let it just keep going, man. Like
that happens.
Nothing should stop this, and then it scatters everything again.
Yeah, I know, man.
Well, I think eventually, when I'm able to hire a lot of able hands.
Do you know what I learned about that? Is I maintain the structure as what we fall back to.
Okay.
So, and I agree ahead that we don't have to adhere to the structure all the time.
Yeah.
So when we veer off, I'm like, it's fine. Okay, after all the mood of the veering off and the flow.
Let's come back
so it's on a new morning now.
Oh, okay.
This system is waiting for us.
That makes sense.
And we pick it back up.
So eventually there might be until you eventually normalize.
And then come back to the structure. Yeah. And again, one day you might veer off again. And it's fine. It's almost like the structure is like home. Come back home in that sense. You can
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I see you're doing a lot of or putting order into your life.
I'm trying to.
That's nice. Necessary for someone doing how many things now?
It's long list. Podcast was full gap. How many of that is? Yeah.
This many of that things we don't know about.
I mean, there's Africa Debate Cup, which is not for profit.
Oh, okay.
There's my factory, what I call the factory. It's like my community of sharing, of mentorship and advisory. And then there are many other interests like sports, other personal interests, things I want to learn, new languages, And there's the biggest business of all, or biggest responsibility of all, family. Being an adult. The business of being an adult.
Interesting.
Exactly.
So how have you been able to keep up with all of these things?
Who says I'm keeping up? But I'm trying. I'm doing fairly okay. But I think at the end it's like improvement. There's improvement and there's progress. So, and the out to that is, I have an accountability partner. Like I said, I learned this one from my wife, self-compassion, which is be strict, but also forgive yourself. I know that you're going to, like I said, that's what I just finished saying, you're going to veer off. Yeah. Forgive yourself and then
try
go back.
Again.
But don't give up in that sense. Don't say, this thing is not working. No. Just say, okay, it didn't work for the past 1 week. Okay, so let's come back. So I think it's like daily efforts that is helping.
All right. So there are many things to ask you, and I'm even wondering where to
begin
from. I would like to get to know you. I mean, for people who don't know you as well, I'm sure there are many stories that you're here to tell. That
are you ready?
I've added up to who you are today. Yes.
How ready are you?
I'm very ready.
What version do you want? Full, summarized, or in the middle?
I mean, full gap is here.
I love it. So go the full way. Yes. Okay, I was still trying to say to make the time worth it. When you ask me what's my story, it always begins in my head. In the village, I grew up in Iraq-Ejile, Osun State, and we were, the way I would put it, were people from. It's a village. So we're people from the town It's that kind of family where your dad becomes the traditional ruler, and then you guys move home from the.
That makes sense.
Do you understand? So it means that the setting and expectation of the family is different from those who grew from the village. And then in the palace as well, there seems to be a sense of the where we live suddenly becomes like a bubble in that sense. When the village, our reality is not exactly the village.
It's very different.
Exactly. So there's cable TV to watch some things. There's newspaper delivered at the doorstep. There's books, and there's a lot of things you'll find inside that setting that when you come out, you realize, okay, everybody else's reality is different. And then it means that for the good reasons, my mom would also be very paranoid with going out in that sense. So you couldn't just go out in that sense. You went to school, came back. Oh, by the way, that school I just mentioned, my mom established this school. So that I could have a place to go to. Yeah. No, there was a school, but it wasn't like a quality. She couldn't exactly. It was like home school, but it became a place for other kids to come, and it became like a school by itself. So I left the house to go to school, which my mom founded, and then I come back home as well, and that was it. Everything else was very heavily policed.
For how many years?
That's like from age. So I was 3 when we moved to the village. So I also had a life outside, but I was too young to really make it a life. I only have one memory. A very critical memory, by the way.
And you are the first child?
No, I'm the last child.
The last child?
Of 4.
So you must have heard a lot of stories.
From God bless you. Okay. All the stories I have of when we were in Ibadan, of when we were in Oshobo, of when we were in Ife, were tales from my elder ones. But I have one memory that I recall.
Okay.
I was in kindergarten 2, and my sisters were in primary, and it was like there was a road in between. So they were on this side, or you cross the road and there's a kindergarten section, which is like daycare. So typically when school is done, I wait where I am for them to come out, pick me up, and we walk home. But on this day, which is the earliest memory of my life, which is before we moved to the village, we were done and they were not yet out. And I felt, why do we even wait? Why do I always wait for them to pick me up? I could as well go find them. Before that was step 2. My own is they always come to pick me. I could go pick them in that sense. So I tried to walk in, but it was like, small gates, kids. They're all still kids, right? But I was like child. They were like maybe age 8, 10. So there are a lot of kids coming out of a very tight, small gate, and I'm trying to enter. Well, of course, I couldn't, it was too much. And I waited outside, hoping I'll see their faces, but I still couldn't see their faces, and it was taking too long. And I'm like, okay, wait, this home, sir, we can find our way. We can find our way. It doesn't seem that far now. And I just turned right, and I started walking home. Age 2 or 2 plus. 1996. Because I was born in 1994. That's the earliest memory. I don't even know how I have that memory. But I'll tell you why. I will tell you. You do not have memory. Okay, did not do that. See, it took some time before I went to the temple. No, but I will tell you why this memory stayed with me. Because that's too. When I tell people I have a memory of me at age 2 plus, they're like, how? Most people say their earliest memory is 5 or 6. I'll tell you why. I got home. No, I got to a junction. I wasn't sure if it was left or right. I made a guess. I guessed right. And I turned. It was the right guess. Yeah. And then thanks to God.
Thanks to your angel.
I could have been lost. Guess what? There were actually some stories of kidnappings around that period in Ile-Ife. So this was in Ile-Ife. So when I got home alone, imagine your 2-year-old kid arriving home alone without his older siblings who were already at least of age to come make it home. Just this boy walks into the compound by himself. Could have been hit by a car, could have been, kidnapped. So my parents were happy that I made it home. That's step 1. But as an African parent, you can know that's only step 1. So my dad ensured that I did not forget that day.
Never ever.
By whipping some lashes. And that's what makes that memory unforgettable, because I cried and I knew I had done something terrible. So I couldn't forget that memory. But I feel like it was the earliest indicator of some kind of rebellion or independence in my head, or some kind of questioning. So when later in life I dropped out of uni, questioning the system and not being afraid as everybody else was. That story I just told now is like my earliest indicator to that.
You could do things.
Yeah, I just felt like, why not?
We're not on the path that is known.
Yes. So my that question I asked that early was, why not do? Of course, it was a dangerous decision.
Yeah.
And many other risky decisions would be dangerous too.
Yeah.
But of course, as an adult, I now thought more about my decisions. I might still go the other way, but I would at least put thoughts to it. As a kid, I didn't have a chance. I didn't have the capacity to put that much thought to it. Back to Ikejile, age 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm in the primary school funded by my mom, and then on and on. By staying home as much as possible, meaning, so this is my chance. This was my chance to play with kids. Sometimes my mom sends me on an errand, maybe age 8, simple errand like maybe go and give this thing to this maybe a family relative 2 streets away, or help me buy something, that kind of thing. I was sent on errands like that, so that was my chance. And the errand should take 20 minutes.
That was your chance to leave your
Yes. So I would take longer than yes. Now, so my way, I would see kids playing sets, and then I would pause what I was sent to do, and play for a few minutes. So means that I would get home longer than I should. I think there was a case where there were many cases where my mom sends me maybe to go collect something from someone, and then it takes so long that she sends someone else to go collect the same thing. So while I'm still out there, the person goes and comes back, and she already has what she wants. Yeah, so but of course that was my only chance. But all of this meant that I spent a lot of time indoors, and I had to create my own entertainment in that sense. So I spent time with books. I didn't really like reading the books, the text. We had a library, so I was really drawn to the visuals in the books. That was the start for me from an artistic point of view.
Okay.
The newspapers, there was just too much text. When you open a whole typical newspaper as a 7-year-old, as a child, you're like, why do we have this much words?
This much information,
too much. But you see the photographs of the J.J. Okocha,
those cartoons,
those things. Yeah. So 2002, Korea Japan came, World Cup was a thing, there were fixtures. There's the World Cup trophy itself, you will always find those pictures. And as a 2002 Korea Japan, I was age 6 plus 8 exactly, just around before secondary school.
Okay.
So I would spend time cutting these things. I'll cut the footballer, I'll cut the celebrities, and I'll paste them in this 32 leaves exercise book. So when I think about it now, I said those were my first magazines.
A mood board.
So in fact, because I also couldn't go out, kids could come to our house, and we had a big compound, and there was a place in the back that was not tarred, and we played football there, so kids come. And my mom was slightly more open to that. At least you're playing it in the compound. She would limit it. It's enough. Go and wash your body and whatever. Like over for the day. She would still regulate us, but that happened a lot. So to maximize that, I tried to organize what I call a tournament. Divide the boys to different teams, and I made a World Cup trophy. And what did I mean by that? I picked up an empty Bailey's bottle, which Bailey's bottle have this nice design, dark, and there's this gold thing. And then I picked wrappers from my mom's wardrobe, all these shiny wrappers that they use to pack Pampers. Then I wrapped it around the Bailey's bottle. And when I lifted it up, it was really the World Cup from my own point of view. And it was like the cup for the competition. So I did a lot of things like that as a kid. And that was the beginning for me in terms of creating or creativity or design. But whenever you asked me what is it I wanted to be when I grew up, I never said design because I didn't know that design existed. Of course, I kind of thought some people must have done these things, but I never saw any of them around me. So I said things like I wanted to be a pharmacist because I've seen a pharmacist before. I wanted to be different things I had seen around me. I never said design because I didn't know any designer. But I know that at some point, my dad had accounts with many banks. So it's not. I don't think it's a thing any longer. But there was a time when banks will send you calendars. I don't know if you saw some of those things.
Or end of year annual report.
There's annual report. Then there's the calendars you hang
calendar.
on the wall.
Yes,
January. When it's February, you will turn it. It will have a different picture. Maybe National Theatre. Then it has this other park.
Yes.
So you turn it. I couldn't wait for the first day for every new month. And then want to go and open it.
Yes.
Sometimes I would look at everything on January to December at once to see it. But some other times I would deny myself that I want to wait. So it's new. So I will open it and then I will see a new photograph. And then the styles, actually, this was one of my earliest exposure to graphic design. I realized that all the way the dates were written and January or February was consistent per page, but color might change, photograph might change. So there was repetition. It was a system. It was evident. I didn't call it system.
You could discern it.
Do you understand? And then, like you said, back to brand. The Union Bank will have a vibe to it.
Yes.
GT wasn't yet a big bank.
No.
Union Bank, First Bank
First Bank
will have its own unique vibe. It will follow the dark blue. Union Bank will follow this other kind of powdery blue they used to have. And everybody just had a style.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I was interacting with.
Yes.
But I knew that I liked it.
Yeah.
And I once said that I would like to one day be one of those who behind these things. Again, whatever that thing that they were doing was, I didn't have a name for it. So I couldn't say one day I would like to be a creative director, or I'd like to be a graphic designer, I'd like to be a brand consultant, because I didn't know any of those terms. But then I went to boarding house. Boarding house was out of the village, like the next town. And it was owned by the Anglican diocese, and it was a new school. And we had kids from Lagos, kids from different parts of Nigeria. And that was my first interaction with other people.
Outside of your village.
Yes, and I saw, you get.
People that had relative experience.
Yes, that was different from mine. Although, in the village, like I said, I spent a lot of time watching TV as well, or reading books. So my mind was not entirely there, but it's still not compared to seeing people who had been to Bar Beach. And I was like, what is Bar Beach? And then people who had been to the zoo in Ibadan. They say UI. I'm like, okay, what is UI? And then they'll talk about some cartoons that I've never seen before. And they'll talk about, do you know Walkman? Yeah. One of them had a Walkman. Walkman was before iPod. Yes. It was only one boy had a Walkman throughout the school. And some of them had, there's some tiny, like a patio, there's a radio.
Yes.
Palito. I eventually afforded one myself. And then phones came. Some people had, sophisticated phones, but I eventually got one small phone too. But they said stories of Lagos, of Abuja, of places I never heard about. But for whatever the reason, I was not intimidated by their stories. I was rather fascinated. I was so fascinated. And people used to say that I believed everything. So when a kid is telling a fable, and everybody else is like, it's a lie. Or there's a skeptic guy. I was the one who, I was like, tell me more. If you told me your dad had 400 cars, I'm like, how did you guys pack it? How did you guys arrange it in the garage? And in my mind,
because your imagination is what.
Are you kidding me? I never threw out, I'm the opposite of cynical. I never ever told anybody through a boarding house that that thing you're saying is a lie. I had never said it to any human being. I don't want to know whatever it is they told me.
Because you never told a lie about your own.
You're right, I never did.
I guess.
And I just felt everything was possible. Like, why not? There was this guy that said, he was a senior boy actually. He said his dad. He said his dad used to play for the Brazilian team, national team, as a goalkeeper. That even recently, JJ Okocha and some top Super Eagles challenged him that they would score penalties against him. That if he can save 3 out of 5 penalties, they would give him something. They started describing each of the penalty kick and how his dad jumped and almost saved one and then died. Like, those things. And you see, as I was saying it, the video was playing in my head. The video was, of course, when I grew up.
That was also such an imaginative person.
You're right.
To paint such vivid
no,
picture.
The fable tellers actually were also solid imaginative guys. And then the fable believers, like me, also very imaginative. Then there were the people in the middle who didn't tell the lies, but who spotted the lies. They're like, first, they didn't have the mind to conjure those lies.
Yes.
None that they have the mind to consider they could be true. Those were the skeptics. And most of the kids were the skeptics. It's a lie. So that's how I could remember my boarding house. Then towards the end of boarding house, I always say this like this, which is that there was a narrative. And narratives are important. Stories that just get popular among a certain populace.
Solid. And spread.
I don't know who started it, but there was a story that just went around. We were already in SS2, so we already started to talk about university. And there's this story, and which is that when you get to uni, you are supposed to have something else apart from the school, the course you went to study.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have something.
Have experiences outside
yes.
of
And they always tied it to
students.
money. You know, we were interested about money. So it was like there's supposed to be a side income. No, it wasn't about that. It was more like you're supposed to have something. Yeah, it wasn't social. The commercial was not social. It was like you're supposed to have an alternative source of income, something else you were doing. So, and then one kid will say, oh, my brother runs a laundry business while on campus. So different kids will say the different things that their siblings, brothers and sisters. Oh, my sister does makeup. Okay, this one is an event planner. So I was like, okay, what are all these things? Because in my head, I'm like, okay, we're supposed to just go to school. And so but they started talking about some trades. Some will say, oh, we better buy something from Onisha and sells in UI. I'm like, okay, tell me more. So that when I got to school, my mind was also along the direction of, in fact, before I got to school, right from after secondary school, one of my friends was trying to start a magazine. Then my brother too was also trying to start a magazine at some point. And I was very optimistic about it. We can do business. Like, so there was just a narrative of side business that was sown in me since like SS2. Then when I got to uni, my brother was in the final year, I was in the first year, Futa. We lived together. And he ran a magazine that he had published on campus. Even before I got to campus, I think. But she had a magazine, that's how I recall it. And then there were these people, and my mom got me a laptop. So my mom, all my siblings, once they got to uni, they started to put pressure at home that they need a laptop for a project. So maybe at 300 level, 400 level, they get their laptops. But I think my mom just had some disposable income. And she just said, before you start disturbing me, go and have your laptop already. So as at 100 level, I had a laptop. Actually, that's one of the best things and like best gifts for me. You know.
She didn't know she was sowing a seed for.
She didn't know, but I had a laptop.
For breaking her heart.
Of course, just like everybody else at the beginning, I was watching movies with the laptop and all. Then my brother had the magazine, and these guys that I would find out are called graphic designers would come to the house and they would show him what the magazine looked like on the screen before it's printed, which is my first time seeing the design software. And his laptop had an issue. So they installed the CorelDRAW on my laptop because they wanted to be able to edit it. They wanted to have the files so that he has the source files. So they installed CorelDRAW on my laptop and they would edit on my laptop. And then I started to have opinions. So I would say things like, oh, can we make these texts bigger? The opinions were formed by magazines I had seen in our library or that I had seen online. I was like, this image is supposed to be bigger. It's supposed to fill the whole page. The text can even go behind the head of the person. You know, that kind of thing. So my brother was like, after they left one day, my brother was like, if you have these opinions on this thing, make sure you not learn this thing they're doing. But I was just finding out what they were doing, you know. So I got curious. Because first he was paying them. He paid them 20,000 naira. I can't forget. So I'm like, and 20,000 was big, you know. My parents were sending me 10,000 or 15,000 naira a month. And so I'm like, okay. So the people get paid. Yeah. So people get paid to do this thing that I had opinions on. And then I asked them to teach me. I asked me to bring 10,000 naira for training. And I didn't also have 10,000 naira. Because I had to buy food and all. And all my entire monthly income was like 10,000 also. So I'm like, okay, you know what? In the meantime, I'll start playing with this software. Because, and you know how software are designed. If you move over anything, it will tell you
what it is.
Text tool. Okay, I'm like, okay, text tool. And then I type. It's actually types box. And that's how I started graphic design. I never paid anyone. I mean, that's the pros and cons. Because it meant that 3 years into design, or 4 years, or 5 years, I was manipulating some things that somebody else would do with a shortcut. So they had an advantage of learning the structured way. But me, hey, to do this thing, I can do this, and cover this with this, and subtract.
And try to manipulate.
But I will get it done.
What you want.
But of course, it meant that if you check the back end of everything I'm doing, so I can I can crumble easily. You know, but that was it. That was the start, and there were other details I left out. But I also know that there was a talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Interestingly, I mean, you said a lot of things I've been able to note here, which is quite rich. Like, it points to the fact that you had a very rich background, which makes it very. It makes more sense to tie it back to like that person you are and what you're doing today. But like, I think one thing I'm interested to know is no one ever quenched. I mean, you were the last born. How many
4.
kids? 4.
I'm the 4th of 4.
So none of your siblings at any point, like being the last born, were you over pampered,
Okay.
or were you treated as the least important person in the house?
Okay.
Was there any encounter where someone tried to
Like an
quench
overpowering effect.
yes of this your imaginative
You're right.
self?
None actually. I had the opposites instead. Because like I said, my brother was the one who said, you should learn this thing now. And also when I did a lot of like things that last boss would do, which is maybe talk too much or do this one, my sisters were more fascinated.
Like
do you understand? Like, what is this? So I didn't have people who maybe eat me too much. Of course, there will be normal spanks where necessary.
Okay.
But in fact, that magazine I told you, pasting players on the pages, my sister Olamide would see it and say, "Wow, this is so beautiful." So actually, all I had was positive affirmations and support from my older ones. Of course, my brother, I had sometimes when he would be pulling my nose and my ears and calling me names I didn't want to be called. But those are just normal fun. It was more and mostly supportive in as much ways as possible.
It almost makes me question if it's possible, if this is the more ideal path to type of life. Because I was talking to Mofe earlier today, and his story is kind of similar in that he was like get inside kind of person too, and he was surrounded by books and very religious, strict parents, and that he was building worlds in his head and all of that.
Yes.
So like, I mean, there's an element of your environment and room for imagination and exposure, and the freedom for that expression, like, to not be quenched. I'm wondering if someone who grew up in a direct opposite environment, maybe in a polygamous family where there are just too many people,
nobody even pays
attention to you. There's really no resource. Nobody cares about books. And even if your father is a learned person, he has too many children. Like, he can't coordinate everybody to like. Do you think it's possible for someone to come out of that kind of environment with such maybe dysfunction?
So the thing is that first, we are all products of privileges. Right. And for me, if you say someone, if you say, is it possible for someone? I would say, yes, it's possible for someone to come out of that and still do like incredible things. But if you say me, if I was the one who came out of that experience, to be honest, I wouldn't speak with so much confidence that, there's something intrinsic in me that regardless of the environment, I would have turned out good. No, I cannot tell you that. I cannot. If you flip so many of the conditions of my upbringing, I could have been a direct opposite of whatever it is that I might be doing right now. It could be. I feel like people have some innate things. Maybe I also could have made it out and all, but you can never be sure, to be honest.
You can never be sure, but
you can never be sure.
Maybe not likely.
Maybe not. I could be in jail.
So well, there's something you mentioned, that a number of things you mentioned has caught my attention. Well, you talked about imagination, and we already talked about how we are back in the age of imagination, which is exciting for me, to be honest.
It's exciting for me too.
Because at some point I felt a bit limited because I couldn't code. But I really didn't want to learn how to. Not like I couldn't. Like, I had the opportunity to learn to code as far back as 2010. And being a tech bro at the time was not even a thing. Just a few people you go to IT or what's the app tech? There are a few tech schools here and there. My uncle made sure at least my 2 cousins went there. I was being primed to be the next, And one day I opened the books. They used to give them books. It's not courses or that, it's books.
Brochures.
I opened coding with C++. I was seeing for that math. I was seeing things that just look mathematics. Like, count me out. This thing,
I'm not doing
no matter how advantageous it is,
I don't want.
I don't want. I really, in fact, the funny thing is that it was so bad that I ran away from UI UX. Like, I was exposed to all these things pretty early before like it caught on, and I could have become like maybe one of the main frontiers.
Because anybody started that
because
early.
like I could have picked it up early, but because I just even thought, even down to UI UX, I thought it required that element of technicalities. I ran away. I just said I don't want to do it. But now that we're entering this new age where the technicalities is still valuable.
It's still valuable, but the value is diminishing.
The value is diminishing, and it's cheaper and more accessible.
Yes.
So it means that my imagination actually I can have some fun and have so much support and create value at a much higher level.
You're right.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about.
It's our age.
Yes, it's our time.
It's our time.
Yes, absolutely. And there's something else you mentioned about wanting to become a pharmacist because you saw pharmacist. So it helped me realize that models are so important.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like what you see, like you can only become what you see to an extent, and even what fuels your imagination is also substance of things that we have interacted with. Like for instance, when you're able to critique those designs.
Again, exposure to something.
It was the exposure to something else and the example of something else you've seen
before
that is helping you to like feed back into new creation. So which is a very interesting thing. So exposure, having models, the freedom to dream and imagine, and of course I would say you have a vivid imagination, but you have not proven it because you said they beat that one into you. That's what other memory of being a child, maybe not that young, can you remember? Apart from like being beaten.
The super. Okay. Let me see. Oh well, I remember when we were robbed as a kid. Yeah. I know we were robbed. I don't know if I've told anybody this story actually.
In the palace?
Yeah. No. Okay, good question. So when we arrived in Ikeji, the palace was just being finished up.
Okay.
So we lived in a rich man's, one of the wealthy sons of the had a flat.
Okay.
And it's mostly in Ireland. So it was a temporary house. And his own house was facing another one of the wealthiest sons of the land's house. So we're living in not the palace, a private residence.
Yeah.
Once you enter the village, one of the first buildings.
Okay.
Yeah. So these robbers came to rob the one opposite. And they kind of mistook both as the same property of some sort.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was too young to have the details, but I know that in the morning there were bullets in the compound because they shot sporadically into the house. Well, nobody was hurt. Yeah, we're fine. But there was one memory that is there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah, but then another memory that actually matters or that connects. So that's a very random memory, but one that kind of connects to me and design. Eventually, now we're in the palace, and it was just a recently constructed palace, and there were like glass sheets and some other building equipment still in the compound. Sometimes we kids would pick one of it and use it to play table tennis and all of that. So there were very few ones that were still perfect.
Okay.
Most of them are broken.
Yeah.
So
my right shape.
A very few ones were in right shape. So there was a day my parents were not around. My brother, every child begins as an artistic child, to be honest. So he's not today in anything closer to like design or art, but like I said, every young child could put something together. So my brother really could draw. I don't think he can draw. I don't even think I record memory any longer. But my parents were not around, and there was this portrait of my dad and then my mom in the sitting room. Like two separate portraits. So my brother picked maybe my dad or my mom first, but he redrew it. He recreated with a pencil or a pen on the paper. to me, it looked perfect. I don't know if was really perfect, but to my brain, it was the best drawing ever. And then he pasted it behind a perfect glass square.
Yeah.
So it became like a frame.
Okay.
And it was so good. Then he went and drew my mom next, using the portrait, and placed it as well behind the glass frame. And it was so nice. And then everybody just kept playing and doing whatever. And after a while, one of them broke. And this, to me, were masterpieces. But they who drew it, they were just having fun. They didn't attach that much value to it. So much that they didn't protect it that much. It was easy that one of it broke. And when it broke, none of them, they didn't have any reaction to it. It was like, something, somebody else went to play it. In my own head, I'm like,
what?
How did that happen? Then maybe they sent me on an errand and I came back and the second one had broken too. It was a painful memory of my childhood. It was more painful because they were not affected by it. Like both my brother and my sisters, they were like, okay, they just moved on with their life. Because, of course, now that I think about it, it's possible that the drawing was not great. Yeah. And they knew it.
And they just felt like, okay.
But to me, it was so good. And it was the kind of thing that when you were done with it, you're supposed to go and keep it, especially. I couldn't wait for my parents to come so that I could show them. Even though I didn't make it, I was eager to show them. But that broke before they came back.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was so... Also, saying it now, it also showed a seed to something I am today, which is the sales part. I don't have to create something to be able to sell it enthusiastically as if I did. Not like I would say I did, but I can own anything.
You can own it.
Exactly.
And project it. Like an owner.
Do you understand? And when I did the personality tests, much older than 20, maybe 16, 17, I was found to be a campaigner. And which is, as a CEO, right now, I'm not the engineering guy. Yeah. I'm not the product ops guy, but I can sell. Yeah. I can own a vision. I can lead a vision and infect other people with it. So I was eager for my parents to come, for me to do what a curator would do in a gallery. You know the curators in the galleries are not the artists, but they will tell you the story, and they will make you appreciate the work more. I couldn't wait so I could tell them, we'll see what we just created and all of that. But the dreams were shattered before they come to life. And I think at that point, the way I wrote it in my autobiography drafts was that, and I think that's really how it felt, was that in that moment, I kind of had a determination in my mind that I would create my own masterpieces that I would be able to protect by myself. I kind of, it wasn't that deep. It didn't sound that as deep as I said it now. Yeah. But it was a seed of, I'll create mine. Yeah. I'll create mine.
That's very deep, actually. Being able to create something and being able to protect it. That's a very, very deep. You're giving me too much fun to try back on. But I'll take it. I'll take it one by one. Yes, so like the first thing I picked from this is the fact that you have the ability to amplify the value of something. Like you can project more value into something more than it's truly exists.
Yes. Or sometimes more than the people who made it could see. Yeah. Like in that case, they didn't even value those works at all.
Which is a very brilliant thing. Talking about being a visionary now, I would compare that to maybe Wozniak working on those computers and
just having fun.
Just having fun with the technical guy, just playing around, and Steve could see something else entirely.
Somebody when an investor offered them an amount, so they still turned it down. And was like, "What are you turning down? What's the worth of all of these things?"
So like, I think that is such an important attribute of someone who is a visionary. Is the fact that you can actually see possibilities are actually just a thing, and you have the confidence, not false confidence like a sleazy salesman trying to convince you or persuade you, but like a confidence of like, if I were you, I would want to have this as well. So like, let me help you see what I'm saying, so that you make this decision about
You're right. It's the kind of analysis where you're selling something with so much like enthusiasm, but you believe what you're saying. You're not deceiving someone. Like that enthusiasm is real.
Yeah.
I like how you put it. Like
Yes.
you're feeling like if I was you, bro.
I would do anything.
Like I would say, if I was you, I'll be on full gap. I'll be using full gap to do this. It's like that kind of ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, right now that you're here, what inspires you? Like what helps brings you to life? Like what helps you come alive?
Mm.
That maybe you see, you experience, you touch, you interact with, or who, or like what are the things that, of course, let's say you live in an inspired life right now where you have a vision, you're passionate about something, you have the challenge to overcome every day. So there's something that already fills you. But what are those things that you encounter from time to time that just reinvigorate you?
I get it now. I think it is conversations. Conversations with people. Yeah. Conversations, especially imaginative conversations when we're talking about what could be, what is possible. You know. And that happens a lot. Sometimes alone at home with my wife or with, you know, Bolaji, the times when we speak, outside day to day, following up with work, but like, okay, outside that, like when we imagine the future. So I think those are conversations for me when I meet new people at an event, and they're like telling me about what they're building, and I'm telling them about what I'm building, and we're both asking questions and trying to learn about each other. I think it's conversations for me. It kind of just, because sometimes you can feel everything is just almost depressing sometimes. It's like, but when I have conversations, it's like, it's a battery charger. Nature is a booster. It's a booster. The nature is huge for me.
Okay.
When I take walks, you know, my wife and I have plants that we take very seriously. And that's very inspiring.
Okay.
I like to go to I go to IIT a lot. We've been there like 7 times. That's because there are not many places like that where there's a lot of nature. But we finally got to live in a place where there's a lot of nature as well at the moment. So nature is like huge. Nature is like huge for me. Yeah.
Same. I know. The first time we had the dinner, I know you were pointing out so much around like African fabric and patterns and all of that. Is that something that is just on the side, or that's something? I mean, I could tie that now to living in the palace.
You get it. You have the answer. Living in the palace. I grew up in a house where our doors, like this pattern of this door, for example, they're telling stories. Yeah. Yes. No, not just ornamentals. They're like carvings of people.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's like
story of.
You get it.
Yes. I know those churches that used to have.
Yes, where they will show the apostles. So in this case, it's like the chiefs and the servants and the traders. There's a door in our palace like has like 200 people on it, you know, in that thing. And then there's another one. Thanks for asking me this. These are actually these early artistic inspirations that I even forget about. There's another one. There's some other such gravings in the house that are not literal. There's a literal one. Then there's one that is like, you're like, what is this? It's like someone's head, but it's also confusing. And you're like, what is this? Is it a spirit? Or what? What is this person trying to draw? But there are a few doors like that at home. And then I was exposed to mats as well. Mat weaving was a thing that they did a lot in my village. And the mats will have different patterns.
And,
you know. And then you have the Ankaras and the laces, and there's a lot of like traditional events that people are wearing different colors. There were masquerades too, you know, and there were drums as well. And there were calabashes too. I saw a lot of those things. Like my dad's seat as well would have its own design.
Yes, definitely.
And then hierarchy, or sense of hierarchy also came from that, because
the throne is different.
Yes, the throne is huge.
Yes.
And there are 2 smaller seats around it,
next to it,
which is like maybe next to the king. There's also the queen. They provided for 2 queens, but my dad only had one wife for the most part. And then there are now chiefs. The chiefs too have maybe a bigger chief.
Yes.
The chair will be taller.
The right hand man and the left hand man.
Yes, and then the ones who will just be on a seat that doesn't have a back. They're just supposed to. They're not supposed to be too comfortable. So there's this order
Yes.
There's like a meeting room.
Yeah.
And you can just see how the chairs tell a story.
Yeah.
Of hierarchy, of importance.
That's actually so
and that was very
and the fact that
but I'm realizing this in this conversation for the first time. I've never really thought about that as an impact on me.
That's definitely we are a product of our experiences and
very importantly.
Like we literally cannot escape.
No, we can't
escape it no matter how much
you're
try.
Right.
And that's why it's such an interesting thing to be able to look back at some things that you're able to do that others just struggle with endlessly because they don't have the substance.
Right. To be honest, some things come easier to you.
Yeah.
And then that's when you feel like, why can't you guys see this thing now? Why can't you see that this doesn't look good? Or why did you send this to me? Like, you should know that this is not good enough. But I try to know, but the other part is now to be patient.
Yes.
To also understand that.
And
guess what? Interesting thing is that even you, in my case now, despite all those experiences, it still took a lot of years in the craft to also fine-tune some things. It wasn't like you started and you immediately...
Like the nurture aspect of it.
Exactly. It's, with everything that we have said now, my earliest designs, they were still an eyesore. You now find your way and meeting up things, even how you write, earliest articles, like what? But those upbringing still plays a role in your ability to get to that refined part. So it's almost like something built in us, but you still need to
sharpen it.
Exactly. There's a lot of like cloud and hand that you need to sharpen to get back there. So that's why I said your hard work is still very important. Your choices in life is still very important. But your upbringing also plays a critical role. It almost gives you it gives you a head start.
Interesting. So like how does all of this help you form or helps to form your worldview? I think the best way I can put the question so that not to throw you into
a very open
is what contrarian idea do you have about the world that you believe absolutely but like most people would not agree with you?
I like that. Nice. The first is that schools are overrated, which you can expect from a dropout to say. First is that schools are overrated and schools are designed for people to be average. I heard you. Schools are designed for people to be average.
Yeah.
It does not mean that everybody who goes to school will come out average.
Yeah, but
by design, schools are not designed for people to be exceptional.
Yeah.
And it's almost like and it's almost like a control system from a global order point of view.
Okay.
Because also when you think about the triangle or when you just think about how the world runs, there's like a few people at the top and there's the large majority at the base. If too many people from the majority are striving for the top, it's a threat to people who are at the top.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So when systems are being designed, and I'm not even saying this from a conspiracy point of view. But it's just like probably even for
power and relevance and value. I mean, value by scarcity. Scarcity creates value.
Do you understand? So it's not necessarily like I'm saying, some people are very evil. Exactly.
It may not be malicious, but human nature naturally wants to.
You get it? Even in design, preserve. Even the hierarchy within design, we intentionally make some things tiny.
Or more important.
And their state of being tiny makes the big things look better.
More valuable. And more important to focus on.
Exactly. Yeah. So without malicious intent, without implying that any global order system had a malicious intent.
Yeah.
By natural instance, whatever, schools are designed to prepare people to be at the base of that pyramid.
Yeah.
But at that base of that pyramid, they can function okay. They can do certain jobs. Satisfactory. They can also create some value. And make some money. And they're fine. But for everybody who wants more,
you have to break that mold.
No, school cannot prepare you for more. School can tick some basics for you. But if you want more, you're going to have to educate yourself.
So I have a very important question.
Yeah.
So since your mother created the school not because she was trying to adapt what the standard was, but to give you an outlet to be educated. How would you say that was? How would you apply the same statement to that experience of your mom's school?
So, okay, good question. But the interesting thing is that even my mom also had
a product of the school.
Exactly. So my mom also might not even know this thing I'm saying right now. So when she was trying to create a school, she was a teacher as well. She taught in a government school. While she then founded a school.
So she modeled it after what?
That's what she actually did. But in the government school, by design, both the students and the teacher in many public schools are not even really interested in. The teacher is not interested in teaching. The kids also would rather be playing around. You know how government institutions are. Now, because there were really good government schools before. But that's when I needed education. My mom knew that the school where she was teaching was not going to be the best for me. Do you understand what I'm saying? So she created a school and employed graduates, university people just finished at NYC or even polytechnics or degree. But private business, you can see to it that you people are teaching the classes. In the government, nobody takes any responsibility. Nobody is it the local government chairman that's coming to ensure that you people are teaching? Nobody really takes it that thing, which is a sad thing, by the way. So when my mom created our own school, it was just to create a system that she could at least ensure that the classes are being taught and everybody's doing their job. That's all. It wasn't like she did anything different in the
unconventional approach.
No, she didn't have an unconventional approach. And talking about that, my opinion on school so school is good because preparing you for the basics too is important. But where I disagree, and when your question was what people would disagree with, is that the same school, inside the same school, they will tell you about the next president is probably in this assembly ground. They will tell you guys that you all here, thanks to what we're teaching you here, you all are going to be great. It's almost like we are giving you enough to go be the next Bill Gates. We're giving you enough to go be the next Mark Zuckerberg.
Why the preparation is so bad.
The preparation cannot deliver. Anybody in the assembly ground who goes ahead to do any of those things, it will not be thanks to
based on their own personal development.
Yes, it is their re-education.
Yes.
Again, the school also plays a small role by teaching the basics. But the school is not whatever the teachers said on the assembly all about what you could become. No, not thanks to what that school is giving you.
Would you like to start a school of
That's a nice question. Regarding how passionate I've been talking about this, no. I think what the most I would do, and me and my friends talk about it, my wife and I and certain friends were discussing it on my birthday, is that, okay, maybe the cool thing would be, imagine that you are in an estate and there are families, many, and you all agree to homeschool all your kids. So all the kids go to this home on Monday, and these parents teach them, and all the kids go to this person's home today, and there's an agreed upon timetable, and then an hours. So this family teaches all our kids on Tuesday, and this family teaches all our kids on Wednesdays, and in the evenings all the kids play together in the playground. That's as far as I've imagined an education system, But school, I don't know. Maybe I wake up one day with a passion. My wife probably would think about it first. She's closer to thinking about coming up with it.
Thinking about the podcast is for the everyday visionary, and from our conversation, I personally would even think you've ticked a lot of boxes as a typical visionary. I mean, from the ability to imagine things and having done that for many years, having built that model of seeing the world. So what exactly will help you identify a visionary, or who would you consider as a visionary?
First, a visionary is someone who exemplifies the traits of the humans that brought us here in the first place. And when you look at the evolution of humanity, we moved from the Stone Age and the hunters and the hunter-gatherers, and then the people decided, we could replicate these plants here and have a lot of these crops, and then, we need a ban to save some of these crops. And some people invent armed robbery so that we can steal from the bans. And some people then invented the police so that we can arrest the people stealing from the bans. And then some people would get sick, and once they were sick, we knew they were going to die. And some people woke up and said, we should be able to stop some people from dying. The fact that they were sick doesn't mean they should die. And those ones gave back to health as an industry. And inside the health industry, some people felt, why are we letting blood? There's a different way in which we could heal someone without taking out their blood. And so certain events have moved us from 0 to 1. One man thought, okay, we light up our rooms with kerosene. There should be a more effective way. What if we tried this? And we tried and we have the electricity. And then there's the photography. Why can't we save these memories for longer? And then someone did it, but the films needed to take a long time. And then it's a continuous 0 to 1. So I feel like the visionaries are the ones who are able to look at what we have and not just think, how can we do it faster? But think, how can we do it differently? Are the people who can make a paradigm shift in their minds. Because when we had horses to move around, some people thought, how can we whip the horses more effectively so that they can run faster? And some people thought, how can we feed the horses in certain things so that they can be stronger and run faster for longer periods of time? And some people thought about, okay, the seats, how we sat on the horses, can we make the seats more comfortable?
Yeah.
Can we firm ourselves more to the horses? There's an entire industry. Can we decorate it? Add something to the noses? Can we clean their skins more? Can we mate these two types of horses to produce this stronger version? That was an entire industry of people trying to improve a system. They are not the visionaries. They play an important role.
Okay.
They are like the developers or the operators. The visionaries are like, what else could be moving us around apart from horses? So I think that the visionaries...
And take up the challenge to see it through.
And take up the challenge to see it through. Or bring people together and guide them to see it through. By consistently trying to infect them with what they see.
Vision.
Yeah. And so it means that oftentimes they will seem like crazy people.
Okay.
And many times they will truly be crazy people.
Delusional.
Yes, actually. So when you pack like 100 visionary people together in a room, the truth is that sometimes 60% of them actually go on to be purely delusional and they don't achieve anything in their lives. And some of them will be lost to drugs. Some of them would, will like do terrible things. Some of them will be locked in jail, vices.
Yeah.
To
accommodate the constant struggle reality.
With reality. So it's a balance between delusion and realism actually. So there's a lot of like being crazy, but some who are not able to manage their craziness in a way that they can make it become something.
So we are talking about how almost being a visionary is like a course that you can't escape.
Yes, it's almost like a course, sort of.
Interesting. So do you think every entrepreneur is a visionary?
That's an interesting question. No.
Okay.
No. I think that this is the circle of visionary, this circle of entrepreneur. Many times they overlap.
Okay.
So imagine 2 circles with an overlap, meaning there are 3 types of people.
Okay.
On that business leading side of things or on the leadership side of things. There are those who are entrepreneurs and not visionaries.
Okay.
Left side of the circle.
Yeah.
There are those who are visionaries and not entrepreneurs. And those who are entrepreneurs and visionaries. An example of a visionary that's not an entrepreneur would be someone leading an NGO.
Okay.
They have a vision of the world and they go the extra length to make it happen. But they're not trying to create financial value.
Okay.
They're not thinking about productive value from an economic point of view.
Okay.
That's a visionary.
Yeah.
A politician can be a visionary and they're not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur that is not a visionary, you'll find a lot of it in retail, for example.
Or
exactly,
or
people trade. Merchants who buy and sell are not trying to create anything at all.
Yes.
They're bringing something somewhere where it's produced, taking it to where it is needed.
Supplying.
But they're entrepreneurs too.
Yeah.
Because they're creating value their way, not in a structured. If they do better, they can make more money. They can control how they're creating their value. So in a way, they're entrepreneurs. There are also other entrepreneurs, apart from buying and selling. There are people running an actual business. But their thinking is not to do anything in a different way.
or change any status quo.
Yes. For example, if an entrepreneur is completely thinking about how can we do this same thing faster, that's not being visionary.
Okay.
And that's not to talk down on that.
Yeah.
It is a way to create value. Like I said, if I enter an industry and my entire thinking is to do exactly what everybody else is doing, but I want to do it faster. Of course, by doing it faster, I can now make more money.
Yeah.
And maybe retain more users.
Yeah.
You could also call it that I have a vision of a faster way to do it, but that's closer to just being more entrepreneurial.
Okay.
While the visionaries, like I try to describe, they imagine a different world than what we have right now.
So I think what you just said makes me think about this idea of like brand models. So 3 brand models. There's product centric, customer centric, and vision centric. So as an entrepreneur, like you said, you might be obsessed with how
product
to
or customer
product, and you're visionary about what is possible with maybe a particular technology, for instance, or a particular solution and how it can, yield more productivity. Versus, okay, I'm just obsessed with customers. I want them to be so happy that their loyalty retains with me and nobody else can snatch them from me. And
both of that is still entrepreneurial.
Yes, it's still entrepreneurial. And I think the vision is more driven. It embeds everything.
Exactly. Because in the visionary, you need to still be obsessed with those other 2 things. But that's the driving.
Even deeper and higher than, profit from. In fact, in some cases, you might stay off a product or a customer group to fulfill the essence of what you're actually interested in.
So there's something more than optimizing that product or optimizing the customer journey. There's a world.
Yes, there's a world
you want to build.
They
play a role.
They are a means to that end of your vision.
Yes, you're radically committed to bringing a world to me. So there's a lot of change involved. There's a lot of 0 to 1.
I'm wondering who is an example or what business is an example of that in today's world that have been so committed to a vision that don't mind sacrificing their advantage.
That's a nice question.
I know that would be difficult to think of.
Because the sacrifices are not always evident.
Yeah, true. It's not very evident. But generally speaking, who is the ideal visionary that you know today? Like maybe someone you consider that this is definitely an example of who a visionary is or should be.
Actually, Shola comes to mind. Shola of Paystack.
Okay.
Because again, like I said, the decisions people make inside a business is not that obvious to us outside. So we would never be able to tell if someone was entirely optimizing for financial gain or if someone was thinking about their business as a tool for change, to bring together, to bring to life a world that they imagine. So up until before Sporting Lagos, I might not have mentioned his name. But seeing his thinking, when he's then invested and is still investing a lot of what has been his own personal earnings, right, in Sporting Lagos. And the way when I read the story of why he's doing what he's doing, it then reminds me that, okay, this person has always had this mindset. And it means that in even building Maystack to where it got to today, they must have made a lot of, it was this same energy. So with Sporting Lagos as an outlet, I have reasons to, to take steps back and say, okay, this person has always been a visionary.
That same pattern of behavior in different realms.
And you can see that these new realms are not something that will bring in immediate returns. There's thinking about the impact it can make, for sports and for young people.
To require serious investment for a long time for real benefit starts to show up.
So thanks to those projects, that's the name that will come to my mind. It does not mean there will be other CEOs who all they've done in the ecosystem is just their tech startup and they're visionary, but it might just not be obvious to me because I don't know what that's driven their decisions. So I would say Yeah.
So, well, you've been behind the scenes supporting visionaries before, and now you're
another visionary.
okay.
Very an obvious name in Nigeria, but I think another visionary. No, let's move on. I'm not sure of the case studies I wanted to extend.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you've been a visionary, or you've been behind the scenes supporting visionaries. Maybe not everybody you've worked with, but I'm sure you've come in contact with a few people, and you had to play a role to help. Make it. I see you are beginning to.
Yeah.
Do you need?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, good. Okay. And so now you are playing the key role as a visionary yourself in Folga. So how would you contrast those two experiences?
Okay, being like supportive and then being there. Okay, nice. Nice. I think when I was supporting, for example, in the case of Red Media Africa with Jude Jidonwo, it is easy because you also carry a seed, that's me now, of being a visionary in you.
Okay.
It's easy to be critical of the visionaries that you are working with.
Yeah.
So, of course, you respect a lot of things that they're doing. Okay, I'm looking at them, Chude and Debola Williams, for example, back then. And there are many things they're doing, like, I respect that. Oh, that's a good example. And there'll be some other things where I'll be very quickly critical in my head.
Yeah.
No, we should have done that better. No, I don't think I like how they did this or something. But now when you're in the shoes yourself, now you travel back and cut them more slack.
Yeah.
That, this thing is easier. Yeah, because in your head you're like, no, now, like, okay, this should have been done like this, and it should have avoided this. When you find yourself repeating some similar errors, and you understand that it's not like you're intentionally doing it. It's just like...
It's just the condition.
It's not as straightforward.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how I will contrast both.
Okay.
In both cases, visionaries have a view of the world. There's something they're trying to bring to life. And I can remember them telling us about those things. And today I'm telling my people about these things, right? But because there are also many factors pulling us in different directions, the same you, the visionary who has a view of the world, sometimes you find yourself acting in another direction. But when you're doing that, you're doing it for a necessity in that moment.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have gone completely off your vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say there is no purist, or there's really someone who is like in that circle of someone who mixes visionary and entrepreneur. Yeah. It will always be a dance of both. They won't always seem visionary. They won't always act in alignment with that visionary status.
Yes.
Sometimes they will act like it will look to you like, is it just all about the entrepreneuring? Like, this is all about the maximizing of profit, Abi? Yeah. But some other time, you are reminded that that's because it's a dance.
That actually plays a role in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. That's just how it is. Yeah, there's no, once you're in that circle where you're combining both visionary and entrepreneur, there's no purist position. Yeah. In that sense.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So your new experience now as a visionary, someone that has to, you're still, in a sense, playing some role as a supporter of other people.
Yes.
How do they feed into each other? Like, how does your running full gap now feed back into...
okay, I think I might be better understanding your last question now.
Okay.
Okay, I think one interesting, again, similar to the way I answered it, is talking now from the support part of, like, from a fourth canvas, consultant, supporting visionary point of view. This is the difference. The visionary has A, B, C, D to Z, but let's use A, B, C, D as an example. He has A, B, C, D departments, 4. To make this analogy simple, that is trying to drive towards his vision. You as a consultant, at least the way I have consulted or supported, you're coming from one of those 4 things. And you have a picture of how that your own one thing, how you think the visionary you're working with should take it, how much attention you should put to it, how ideally you should see it and function with it. But your view you are only thinking about that one thing you are bringing to the table. He's unable to give you the energy you want him to give because he's thinking about 4 things. And the area with which you are consulting from is only one out of those 4 things. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's almost like you're the visionary. You have someone consulting or advising you from an operational point of view. They want you to believe the operations is the most important make or mar for the business or what you're building. You have someone coming from the branding perspective. And they're wondering why. Don't you understand that the brand is the center of everything? You have somebody coming from a growth and marketing perspective, and they're like, all of this thing means nothing without growth and perspective. You have someone coming from a financial perspective, and they're recommending certain models for you, and they're telling you that you should already take this thing serious now. But they're wondering why you're not. It's almost like, don't you understand that this thing can destroy you later if you don't get it right now? The HR person, someone coming from an HR perspective is like, people's systems, everything falls
back on people.
Exactly. So when I was in the consulting phase, I also was discontent with certain energies I was getting from the people I was working with.
Okay.
But now that I have stepped into their shoes, I understand that, suddenly they're like, and in the broader view, you need to pay attention to all of it. And it means you cannot pay 100% attention to any of it.
Yeah.
So I have more empathy, compassion, understanding that now affects my expectations from the supportive point of view. It means that I step break of perfectionism a little more. I step off the break of idealism a little more. I'm willing to make more compromises. I feel like this thing should be done this way, but like, see, for this founder, this thing needs to be done differently. If we really want to help this founder, he or she has no space for this thing. They cannot. This is our process, so this is how we imagine that it should be done right. This person does not have the ability to implement this thing in what we would have called the right way. That's the new context that stepping in. Okay, good. So one major thing I would do differently if I was to restart the agency was that we will okay, good. When we started the agency, we took inspiration from established agencies globally. We listened to people from those agencies. And so we tried to do our own versions of those. Of course, we knew we couldn't do exactly the way we were doing it. We knew that there were differences, but it was from their position that we were now trying to calm down.
Yeah.
But it was the wrong place to start.
Yeah. Okay.
Now that I think about it. Yes, it was still important to be exposed to that, but it was not supposed to be the starting point. The starting point would have been spending time with the founders.
Yeah.
And that's why, for example, I kind of try and advise people trying to start agencies and all. If you have an opportunity to get a job, take a job. Okay. Take a job in the kind of companies you want to consult for. Understand exactly how things work in those companies. But if you're not taking a job, I would spend time. There are many of those founders, tech companies are open. It's easy. Make friends with a founder. You can go and sit down in their office, even if they're not an employee. You can use their workspace. There's a lot of like that in the ecosystem. If I'm not taking a job, I'll just spend more time with them. Spend more time in tech events. Spend more time in pitches. Because, for example, we have been serving tech companies, so I'm using that example. But more like whoever it is you are trying to establish that agency to serve, immerse in their reality. And because, like, back to the agency, the people we were learning from, or the global agencies, the reality of the people they were serving is different from the people that you will be serving, especially when you are starting out. Yeah. You understand? So my perspective, if I were to do differently, would be to spend more time to understand. And I feel like part of what that understanding would have given me would be to be able to pick an ideal branding package, for example, and be able to create different versions of it. And understand that so I'll be able to provide more tailored services. Yeah. So, in fact, there are early stage clients who had come in the past, stage, and we'll be trying to sell them on some things that they didn't necessarily need. They might even be convinced, For example, brand strategy at a level of detail is not what a certain stage of business owner needs.
Yeah.
And there was, in fact, a real example of a founder who paid us money. They were convinced, and we did detailed brand strategy for them. Very detailed, everything you would expect it to have. Careful thought over several weeks. And 3 months after the branding was handed over to them, the entire business model changed. And a lot of the things we carefully broke down. The center remained.
Yeah. But
a lot of the if it was a 20-page document, the only part that remained, only 3 or 5 remained relevant. The most of the things that we spent time fleshing out was useless in 3 points.
The original document should have then just been the 5 pages.
God bless you. God bless you. And now we probably insisted. The founder probably said they needed this thing to be done faster, and we insisted they had to take longer. But a lot of the length of the time was because we wanted to fleshing out a number of things that they really did not need. So if we're focusing on the 5 pages, maybe we could have come closer to their need as well.
And their timeline.
And their timeline as well. Maybe we could have charged them a little less too, because they're stressing us less. And maybe that would have been a better spend for them.
Yeah. And better value for their money.
And then maybe we could have then planned to make more money off them over time. To stand by and be reviewing for them, and then doing those tactics based on applying
based on
the reality,
what is really
which means instead of charging them a big amount at once and using all our sales to let them see the value and eventually convince them to pay it, but now there's no retainer because they've even paid too much, that they're like, let's just go back to our internal team. I don't know if you get my point. I would have been cut more to the size.
Yeah.
Even we would have been cutting to their size on their behalf.
Yes.
As opposed to convincing them to, this is an important investment you must make. Maybe we would have now tried to make more money with them as a running partner.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other things we might have done differently.
Okay. Yeah. That's very useful.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'd like to know what surprised you about your new experience as a founder now. Like, what was the shock that you did not expect to see, or assumptions that you had to confront?
And it still connects back to that agency experience, which makes me now rethink agency experience. There's a lot of permanence in how consultants work.
Okay.
We want to define this and define that and hand it over. In the reality of a startup, which I eventually stepped into, however, things change every day. Things change overnight. Things change super fast. That what you need more is a partner that can continue to support you in the fast-paced change. And if they're going to even do anything and hand it over to you, they need to do it in a way that is flexible. That when you need to change, you don't have to completely abandon what they've done to you. It is easy for you to plug in your change. Like, let me tell you the shocking moments. There are conversations. So much changes so fast in Full Gap that sometimes we co-founders come together and we decide on something. And in 2 weeks' time, we've not done another meeting, but we've started acting differently from what we decided. And everybody is on board with the new way we started acting, even though we didn't go back to a meeting to discuss it. But it's just that after that meeting, the immediate reality that faced us clearly showed that thing we decided on officially does not hold water. And now we started acting differently. And that acting differently, everybody agrees that we should be acting differently. But we did not even revisit that meeting or edit it where we wrote it down. It's not the most ideal way to live, but it's the reality shock I have seen. It's the reality shock I've seen. There's just so much that needs to change, and it needs to change now. So the speed with which so much has to change is the biggest shock.
Interesting.
Also, one more that it's like a shock too, but one more major learning that I have in my new seat is that from a startup, which is my seat now, coming from a branding and agency and the consulting point of view, I used to focus so much more on qualitative value than quantitative value.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you need both, I used to be very heavy on qualitative. So I'm thinking more about, okay, the emotions or the experience of one person or these two persons. I'm excited about seeing that 3-4 people feel in a certain way. But once you enter the startup seats, you realize that it doesn't mean much, no matter how much they feel, if it's just 4 of them. Do you understand? So one of the first reality shocks I had with the product I've experienced is that I would hear one user say something, about maybe loving something that is right about the product, and maybe I hear another user say it again, and that's just 2 or 3. But I would be so super excited about it.
That's how everybody else.
It will validate in my head. If you say me, if you ask me then, do you understand? And I can see it in a human being. A human being is telling me this is so beautiful. So if you asked me, oh, do you have product market fit? I could have told you yes. Because this is a user in the market now. And they love this thing absolutely well. But guy, what the satellite will tell you is that yes, that's an indicator.
Yeah.
But know it for what it is. It's a tiny indicator. Very, very tiny indicator. Where you can start to celebrate at all, is that you start to see hundreds of people, tens and then hundreds, or at least the number is growing daily or monthly of people feeling that way.
Yeah. That's when it's the validation.
That's when it is really something.
Tangible.
Yes. Because if you pick anything in the world right now that we all think, oh, this is the way. When we say something is the way, we mean that maybe 99% people agree that it's the way.
Yeah.
1% disagree. On a global perspective, that 1% is millions of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because 1% of, say, 8 billion people is several millions. So imagine that your initial indicators were just from the 1%. You understand what I'm saying? Let's say you're building for service providers. And if somebody could travel to the future in 5 years' time, 99% of service providers are going to hate your product. 1% will like it. But unluckily for you, the few people you were interacting with come from the 1%.
Because I've also heard in the startup world, there's been a lot of doctrine around building for love, like building for that few group of people who are going to love what you're doing. I mean, I think the general idea is that if those few people can genuinely love it, it's almost validates that number one,
there were more of them. Okay.
Spread it to one, and it means that what you have is substantially good. That when if it eventually spreads, it would stick. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I don't know how.
That's a very good question.
Yes.
So, but that indicator, one thing I've learned is, a small people, right? Is that number of people growing? So do they really love it, or you just think they love it? It's possible for someone to show excitement. It doesn't mean that they deeply love it. Because if they deeply love it, you will know by tomorrow. You will know by next week. You will know by next month. How will you know? They will use it actively. Because love is action. Love is action. Like, I mean the kind of love where, from a product point of view, love in this case really is that they love it, but it also solves a problem for them. It's useful for them.
Is it possible for you to love something for the sake of it? Maybe not just for the constant use of that thing.
But in that case, at least you would tell others about it.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying growth matters. Yeah. It doesn't matter that your number is just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Is that 4 becoming 5 next week? Is the 5 becoming 6? Is it growing consistently? So I feel like my learning is to not get excited. Like I said, even based on what you said now, you're right. It might suggest, and it's a suggestion. It's a suggestion that there will be more people like them. But it's a suggestion. I need to now be wondering or
an assumption that needs to be
verified. And before it's verified or validated, you cannot celebrate. That's one of the shockers. You cannot celebrate. You cannot conclude that you've stricken gold.
So at what point do you get to say,
okay, we know
this is validated? I mean, if for instance, like 1,000 people have agreed.
Good question.
Right? But the potential of the product can capture 1 billion people.
How do you know if it's on its way to billion?
Let's say that's the dream.
Yeah? What's the dream?
Let's say that's your benchmark or metric for
billion, right?
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Again, it will be a case of how fast is the 1,000 becoming 2,000?
Okay.
Yeah. Because if it stays too stagnant, I think one of the signs of product market fit is that you have a growing number.
There's a pace.
That growing is important. Yes.
And the speed of that growth
matters too. If we were growing geometrically, it means that one, every new user we bring is bringing more people.
Yeah.
So our 2 new users can bring 5.
Yeah.
And that means the 5 can bring 10, and the 10 can bring 100.
Yeah.
So if we are seeing PMF, then it means our users are using it so well, and they're actively talking about it. So it doesn't matter back to blue ocean and red ocean or serving a small market. It doesn't matter if these things I'm talking about is in millions or if it is in thousands, but it has to be happening. One more thing though, it doesn't mean, like what I said, that it's not happening for full gap yet. And it doesn't mean that if it's not yet happening, that you're also doomed. There's something called tipping points. You might just not have reached them tipping points.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the graph should go up like this and should go up almost tip, like so fast like the growth is. But before it starts to go up, sometimes it just spends a lot of time in an arithmetic place or in a straight line or sometimes down. That's when those 4, that small numbers of people who really love it can give you hope. But what I think it should give you is hope, not assurance. That's 2 different things.
There's something interesting that came to mind, even though this is going in the direction I didn't anticipate and I'm not going to. So I saw the map of NVIDIA.
Yeah.
The growth of NVIDIA against Intel. So essentially, NVIDIA had a bet, which is more or less a visionary company. They had a bet that most computers were developed for typing, was optimized for text-based stuff. So Intel processors, all of that was created for that type of computing. But they had a vision that eventually image-based creation and computer activity would become mainstream. So they invested heavily in R&D for graphics card and all of that. And so eventually, like now, I saw that graph in animation. It is insane. Like, it's very easy to, like a 3 billion company becoming a 2 trillion company in a space of, say, 10 years.
Like that's like a super
it's like there's no way to predict this except that this is a visionary company
that just saw
and
it.
They happen to be right.
I like that happen to be right. It could have been a terribly wrong decision, and the map would have
a safe position, possibly because they were already successful
in the text-based as well.
By the provision they already given, they already had a very complementary product or what they were
that could still serve the world if the world stayed in text. Okay, good. So they will not have crashed, but it would have been normal.
It will have been normal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I get
but
it.
like the growth
when it turned out to be right.
Incredible.
That's another thing. Another thing again, why I also think that graph, this is a very good example that they've taken a bet about something that will take time to come, but they're getting ready. Another thought could also be that sometimes you need, again, back to that tipping point thing, there's a stage something gets that everybody then agrees that, okay, this is the way forward. And it now becomes a a thing where, look at iPhones, for example, now. It's like, it's a closed community in a way. The iMessage thing. So if you care about it, you can, people get iPhones now, not necessarily because they've even compared with another phone. Not necessarily because but it's the thing to do.
Yeah. It's become socially expected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the moment you become that product that is socially expected, definitely your graph growth at that point is going to be different from a progressive growth you are making at the time when you're trying to become the norm.
So what's your bet on Full Gap about the future? What's your bet on the future that could influence the growth of Full Gap significantly?
I love it. Oh, okay, nice. Nice. No, I don't have anything close to the NVIDIA example. No, I don't. Yeah, at least not now. Okay. I've not imagined something
but I'm
wide.
sure that there's a theory you have that made you
yes, you're right. The theory is that the future of work is individual.
Okay.
The theory is that what AI is doing is, and that's why some people are scared of it. AI is going to take a lot of today's jobs. So think about how teams are structured. Like, there's an individual who hires 4 people. In the future, he might not need these 4 people again because he has the AI to do the work that they were doing. But those 4 people now will also have their capacity to establish their own, or to do well on their own. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, one man hires 4 persons now to run this agency. Now, after at the time, the one man decides he does not need these 4 people any longer. While the 4 people seem out of job, the 4 people, thanks to the availability of those new things that AI makes possible, the 4 people can go ahead and become 4 new additional agencies, thanks to what is now possible. So I'm betting on the fact that teams will shrink in size. Some teams will become, from team, they will go back to one man, one woman, while some bigger teams will become smaller. And then people who, in quote, lost their jobs will be freed up to establish new enterprises. So the idea is that work will become more individual in nature, more like you're having one individual entity.
More of a maker economy where people are making things.
Yeah. And the things they used to need other humans for, like the admin of things, or the customer support of things, or the
more obsolete.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, think about the way businesses are right now. Businesses are like one entity, just doing one thing. All the people inside is because, well, we need someone to do this, we need someone to do that. At the end of the day, from the client's point of view, this company is one personality solving this one problem for me. That one personality could as well be one human being. Today we have many human beings combining to that one entity because, well, we have no other option. Right? So, and then if that becomes the case, and we have more, as we tend towards that world, the importance of the tools that will aid these one individual entities would grow. And then Full Gap, for example, we joke about it internally, that Full Gap is like automating Bolaji. Because Bolaji, as a human being, joined me, partnered with me. I was a creative guy that had no structure. Bolaji was a structured guy that didn't care about anything creativity. And we became co-founders to found Fourth Canvas. And it's been a beautiful story. But we're building Full Gap for a world where I would not have needed Bolaji.
You would have just
add Full Gap. So,
which is something a lot of creative people lack.
Yes. So we think that the future we're imagining is that will become the norm. I wouldn't think that I needed. I mean, I'm happy that Bolaji kept together, but not many people even have the privilege of that in the first place. Not many people can even easily find someone around them. So both from a co-founding point of view or from an employing point of view, we think that the future is just going to be more individuals being able to fulfill what our companies did today. And if that becomes a reality, what we're building right now with a lot of effort with Full Gap is going to be ready by the time that future, that world is becoming that. That product will be waiting and ready. to
Okay.
fulfill it.
Okay. I think at this point I should just throw it to you. If are there other thoughts you have that you'd have loved to share? Maybe things that just preoccupied your mind lately.
Well, I'll just say that, like we already said earlier on, imagination, our lives, we need to figure out our lives day by day. Yeah. I was telling someone that the SI unit of progress is day. Yeah, it falls back to the day. We need to understand that every day we're going to wake up and figure it out and take one more step. And it's fine if the detailed plans we wrote, we need to rewrite them or abandon them and write another one. I feel like we need to stay flexible. That's where I'm going. And we need to question things. We need to rethink things. We can hold on to something for 5 years and wake up tomorrow morning and realize that no, this thing is wrong and it's okay. That's what I would like to close with.
Thank you very much. So it's been a pleasure to have you. I wish we could just continue.
Keep going.
I'm telling you, we need to do part 2.
I think so too.
But it's been a long time coming. I'm happy that we didn't even get to talk about things that many people would have expected, like maybe branding.
I can imagine.
But I
think we covered a lot.
We covered
a lot.
It's interesting.